MuleSoft-based integration. So I took AsyncAPI on test drive for one of my internal project. I couldn't get it working with the RAML following your blog, Fran, but I think I was able to get it with the OpenAPI, so it worked. So I'm gonna continue with it and probably explore more how we can use that within the MuleSoft integrations or other async communication that happens between the MuleSoft and other technologies, right? So happy to be here and looking forward to like explore it more and learn more about it.
Awesome, welcome, and
thank you.
Yeah, just to so quick answer. So we recently added support for RAML data types. So yeah, we can spend some time on this later if you want.
Sure, thank you.
Cool. Emmelyn, maybe.
Sure. I hope my sound is okay.
Yeah.
I'm having to tether off my phone. So I'm Emmelyn, and part of a group of women in APIs. And a couple years ago, I really wanted to join an open source community. And I got to go to my first KubeCon and Cloud Native Con, but that was kind of intimidating for me. You know, that's such a huge community. And so this particular one is very welcoming. Thank you, Fran and everyone. And back in the day, I was also part of the working groups for RAML and OpenAPI when they were kind of having their, you know, piano dueling battles, if you will, right? To see which one would kind of mature faster, I suppose. And so I found out that AsyncAPI is the sister spec, and that got me really excited, and have been working on product teams that build APIs for, you know, different stakeholders. And now I work for Axway and am an API strategist. And I'm so incredibly excited that, you know, recently we adopted the AsyncAPI spec. So Alan Dennis and Eric Horesny, they were part of Stream Data, which we acquired. And so Alan and I, you know, worked together on that, and we continue to explore it and really appreciate this group. And I'm based out of Texas. Thank you.
That was great, Emmelyn. Thanks. By the way, I'm based in Barcelona. I didn't mention that. So Mark and Jonathan, maybe.
Yeah, sure. I'll go. So my name is Marc DiPasquale, and I'm a developer advocate over at Solace. So Solace has been kind of part of this AsyncAPI initiative for what, a year, a little bit more maybe. And so, you know, we've been supporting the AsyncAPI initiative and helping build the Spring Cloud Stream code generator. And we're actually have a new product that we're rolling out now called our event portal. And one of the features of that event portal is to be able to export an AsyncAPI specification. And from there, of course, hopefully do code generation and make this whole event-driven journey easy for people trying to build real-time applications and systems in general. And I'm joined by Jonathan on the call. I think he's on, and he's in the CTO's office. I'll let you introduce yourself, Jonathan.
Well, yeah, I was just going to give a brief intro. So yeah, I'm Jonathan. I've worked closely with Fran for, well over a year now. I'm out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and work in the CTO's office at Solace.
And I'm out of Orlando, Florida, actually. Forgot to mention that.
So thanks, guys. Maybe Jonas next.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm Jonas. I'm based from Denmark, and I just help out now and then when I have time, free time from the study. So yeah. So
Jonas is very shy to mention, but he's the responsible for most of the pull requests for the last 2 months or 3 months. Actually, a bit more, but yeah, he's been pushing really hard, except during the exams period, which I'm happy that he was respecting this this time. You should finish university first. But that's great. So we see Nabheet. Maybe we were introducing ourselves. Maybe you can introduce yourself as well.
Hi everyone, this is Nabheet, and this is my first time I'm attending this meeting. I am primarily a SAP technical guy and have been working in different SAP technologies for the last 14 years or so. So I heard about AsyncAPI on Twitter, and that got me here, and I'm looking forward to contribute in whatever way I can. Yeah.
Awesome, welcome.
Thanks.
So Lukas, how is your audio going? I think it's more real time now, right? Because your reaction was.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah. It's much better. I changed the room and I told my kids to switch off, to turn off the Netflix, so it got better.
Okay.
So yeah, I can also tell a bit about myself.
Oh yeah.
So,
I introduced you because I thought you were not able to. Sorry.
So yeah, I'm working with Fran now, full-time maintainer, and doing some other activities around AsyncAPI. Previously worked with AsyncAPI, but in a company that was using AsyncAPI. It was SAP. We used it in one of the Kubernetes solutions. Yeah, but I got too close to the spec and the community and got sucked in. Yeah, so that's my intro. And if it comes to the meeting and the agenda, we have actually the most important item on the agenda. Did you want to say something, Fran? Because you showed the finger.
I was saying just one, like there's just
oh
one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like, so it's there's only one, no one from the community added, but of course feel free to jump in with your topics. And I think, I mean, you're the most important here, not us. So if you have anything you would like to handle now, I think we can talk about the AsyncAPI conference after your questions or your topics that you want to mention. So is there anything else you would like to talk about today during the meeting?
Yeah, but if no one has anything, probably what Fran mentioned, there's some updates for the RAML. If we could touch on that, if there is nothing else, I would love to hear that. RAML, or like how it fits in there.
Yes, so recently, let me try to find the package that we launched recently. So that's RAML data type schema parser. I'm gonna share it here. Well, let me share my screen. I think it's gonna be easier. And I'll share the link as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, cool. So you can all see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
I don't know why we keep asking this. It's just like, you can see my screen. Of course you can see it. It's telling me that you will see it. It never happened to me that in a meeting I ask this and people tell me, no, Fran, we cannot see your screen. So here's the link on the chat, okay?
Got it, thanks.
So yes, so we created this schema parser for RAML data types. Have you seen this before?
Not the RAML part. I think when I used, probably either this wasn't there or maybe I missed it. So I couldn't get. Yeah, that's the part. Like YAML was not there, and when I was trying to use MuleSoft as like a vendor in there, the parser did not recognize that. So I ended up just removing it and follow the regular Open API data types there. Okay.
So yeah, just so you know, we're working closely with MuleSoft because I mean they are also one of the sponsors. So, but you probably don't know the people that we're working with because you're such a huge company, right?
I know.
So,
yeah. And just to make it clear, I don't work for MuleSoft.
You don't work for MuleSoft.
Technology. Yeah, I am a consultant for Avio Consulting, which is a consulting firm. But I'm an architect working on purely MuleSoft-based integrations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, so here you can find an example of async API document. There are more examples in the README, but briefly, you can specify the payload. This part here, if you notice, this is RAML syntax. This is not JSON schema, right? It's very similar to JSON schema though, but it's not. And that's the way you use it, right? You have to specify that the schema format that you're gonna use is application/RAML+YAML in this case.
Okay.
Or you can reference an existing RAML file, right? That's
okay, that's good.
So that's how you do it. Aside from that, the theory says that everything should work the same, right? Like that's a really recent package. So let us know if you use it. Let us know if it's failing or if it's working well for you. It should work well. Behind the scene, what it's doing is transforming RAML to JSON schema. So there are certain things that cannot be translated. But most of it is compatible, right? And yeah, and just to make it clear that it's not compatible with the browser, because the rest of the data, the rest of the schema parsers, like the OpenAPI one, JSON schema, or the default one, right? They're all browser compatible. So aside from that, that's the only problem or gadget that this package has. So yeah.
Sorry, when you said browser compatible, is it like with OpenAPI, I was able to run the generator, which generated a nice HTML site for me to share with my team? Okay, these are the specs. You can just go and look at it.
Yes.
So for RAML, it won't do that. Like it won't generate the HTML good site about explaining everything.
Yeah. So the parser, this part is this is a plugin for the parser. Let me. Sorry, I shouldn't have stopped sharing my screen. So we have a parser, right, which should be linked here, by the way. It's AsyncAPI parser, right?
Okay.
And this package is a plugin for the AsyncAPI parser. But if we come here, to the repo of the parser, you will see that you can use the parser yourself. Without the parser, is not for generating anything. It's just to read the AsyncAPI file and get a validated object in this case in JavaScript, right?
Okay.
So you will get you can parse the document that can be inline or from a file, and then you get an object which you can explore better, right? Like you can explore info, title, or get channels. There's a bunch of things that you can do, and by the way, the schemas are referenced here, so you can also find them here.
Okay.
And yeah, and if you want to know more about what you can do with the parser, it's here. You have the documentation here. So all the API documentation is here. Okay. So when I was saying that it's not browser compatible, it means you will not be able to do that in a browser. You know, to do this code here, this parser.parse using the previous the RAML data type parser. You will not be able to do that in a browser, right?
Okay.
Because it relies on some libraries that are not browser compatible. So that's why. But if you use the generator, which is the package that we use, so this package, the generator, is the one that we use for generating HTML, Markdown code in different languages. If you use this, you will be fine. You should be able to use RAML and get an HTML documentation to share with your team, right? That's totally possible.
Okay, then that's good. And the last thing, sorry, probably one minor question. Last time I checked, there wasn't anything which could generate anything related to MuleSoft code, right? And like I know Java code can be generated and all that, but nothing for MuleSoft-based integration. Is that still true?
What do you mean by
MuleSoft? I mean, I don't know. It's probably not for this call. Then maybe we can take it offline. It's just I use a generator. It could generate a Java code like a Bootstrap and all that kind of code, and it's little off. Maybe it's not for this call.
Okay, we can discuss this offline if you want. Yeah, I think it's gonna be easier. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. So yeah, anyone else wants to ask questions?
Jonas, don't be shy.
We could wait with it. So in regards to now that we separated the templates into repositories, are there a way that we should versionize these templates in contrast to the generator?
That's a good question. So I was wondering this the other day, that we should mark somehow the templates. So we should mark the template somehow to indicate which version or versions or until which version of the generator this template is compatible with, right? Right now, we didn't think anything yet because you know that we are in the process of making the generator stable, and that includes the templates as well. So we're in the process of releasing version 1 of the generator. Once we have it, I think we can, or even we can already start thinking about it. Like maybe it could be I don't know, a field on the package JSON or in the config object, something like this. Like
yeah, because the tricky thing is that if we, for example, wanted to just use the major versions to reflect which generator version it's for, we can also have major changes for the templates themselves, and then you're kind of screwed somehow.
What do you mean?
So, for example, we could, for example, use the major version number for the major version number of the template, because those two kind of have to overlap somehow.
Okay, so you mean that to have the major number to be the same on both, like that indicates.
Yeah, exactly.
Compatibility.
But then you just get the problem about when you introduce breaking changes for the templates themselves, then you have to do a major version change, but you can't because the generator hasn't. So yeah.
Yes, and also because I mean that might work for our templates, but people can also create their templates even if they don't share it. And they should not be aware of this rule, maybe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I'm not sure if that will be the word will be the best idea here. Something
I
that
don't think you can.
Something. Sorry.
Shit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think you can do it differently than just a kind of tag metadata in a package JSON, because that would be the best, because during the installation you could always fetch this information and tell the user, okay, you're trying to use a template that is not compatible with this version, and that's it, and that would be the safest.
I have this idea of that probably templates could be self-installing, right? So you don't start by telling the generator, I want this template to be installed or to be generated. I go to the template, I only download the template, and the template will have the generator as a dependency, right? So that might work if you think about it. Like, and the template will have the generator version that it is compatible with. You know what I mean? So you forget about the generator. You just run a command on the template, like npm run generate, whatever, and that will trigger the same as calling the generator with this template, but it will install the proper version of generator. So that's like changing a little bit the perspective. Maybe we could have both. Like we could have the field plus the self-installable or self-installable template if you want, or self-generating template that, and so people don't have to bother with generated versions, right? And also, if you want to use the generator or from the generator perspective, you can still have the field and do this matching that we were discussing in the beginning, right? Like that we were saying in the beginning, that you get this metadata from the configuration file, and just show an error saying that this template is not compatible with your generator version, right? Something like this. You either have to upgrade or downgrade generator. Depends on what's happening. Something like this. That will work. I mean, having both, right? Or maybe just, yeah, I don't know. I think we have two options, and they're not mutually exclusive. I think we can use both. But yeah, I'm also thinking a little bit forward, or trying to think a little bit forward, from the perspective of, we have a CLI tool, like the AsyncAPI CLI tool, where you type AsyncAPI space generate, right, and that will use the generator behind the scenes. So that from that perspective, well, from that perspective, actually, it can be anything. It can be both. It can be the metadata field, and it can be the self-installable template. How does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds reasonable. It's just, yeah, something that when the stable version of the generator comes out, it's just something that needs to be in place before.
Yeah, for sure. So let me just create the GitHub issue so we don't forget about it.
Yep.
And yeah. So feel free to continue yourself asking questions, and Lukas, if you want to continue as well. I'll be creating this in the meantime. No need to wait for me.
No. To the issue. So do you have any other questions, guys, or are we jumping to the conference topic?
Can I ask one more question?
Come on, what's it?
The channels in the specification, right? Channels are something, for example, if we take example of MQs, channels would be, let's say, myQueueName, right? And when I'm defining that, and if I have a use case where those channels are dynamically created, they are not static, wherein when I'm writing that AsyncAPI specification, I can give a name to that channel. If I have that use case, does it support to have variables or placeholders for channel names, which I can explain later? For example, when I'm defining a server in the URL or URL places, I can use placeholders and then parameters, and then explain the meaning of parameter or how to get to that parameter, all that in URL. Can something like that be done for channels also? Because if I put a static value there, then it almost means like, yeah, there is gonna be that queue with that exact name, which is wrong, because like that in that use case, the queues are dynamically generated, even though the rest everything applies to every dynamically generated queue, but the name is different. The channel name is gonna be different. How can that kind of thing be tackled when I'm giving a specification? Okay, guys, this is the channel, but just remember the channel name is gonna be dynamic, but rest everything applies to every newly created channel. Does that make sense? Question? I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think you're on mute, Fran.
I'm mute. Sorry, I was saying that Lukas is processing. So it's processing the question.
Okay.
It's like I can see the smoke in his head. So yeah, so I think so. If I understood correctly, so you mean that you don't want to map channels to queues because it feels incorrect?
It doesn't feel incorrect. It's just a different use case where the channel's name that I'm giving is not a static. Like, for example, if I have, let's say, invoice.receive as a queue name, but that has some suffix which gets dynamically added when the system creates different queues for different services or different systems, right?
And
that dynamicness, how can I give, like, kind of specify in the spec?
yeah, and you never have like something static like the topic name or something like this?
No, that whole topic name
Okay.
is dynamically created. Rest everything is same, like a message structure, and everything applies to every dynamically created topic, right?
Okay, so I think the best way here will be to use a template. So the channel parameter we have. I don't know if you have seen the channel parameters. So you can have. I'm typing here on the chat. So you can have something like on the channel. You can have something. I don't know. myQueueName. Okay. You can have something like this, and that's a variable, because you don't know in advance the value of this variable. This could actually be your channel, right? The name of the whole channel. So,
Okay.
and then depending on the protocol that you use, if you're using AMQP, for instance, then you can use the AMQP binding. And on the AMQP binding, you can specify that your name is actually auto-generated.
Okay.
The name of the queue, I mean, not your name, right?
Oh yeah.
And you can actually specify as well that it's a queue, it's not a topic.
Okay.
Let me try to find it. So.
That in there.
So yeah.
So the channel name itself, I can use those parameters and
Yes.
explain those parameters as the dynamic ones there. Okay.
Yeah, and there you sorry, and there you have also the bindings that I was mentioning. So for instance, if you're using AMQP, you can say that this channel is a queue or is a routing key, depending on the in this case it's AMQP always. And the queue name is this one, or I don't know the queue name, so you leave it empty. And because you leave it empty, it's like, who knows, right? And then you have all these details that you usually have when programming for AMQP. That said, if you have the same problem with another protocol or another provider, then you have to define the same things for a different binding. For instance, you have the same, I mean, not the case of MQTT, but I don't know, JMS, for instance. If you're using JMS, you can probably also leave it empty, and the name will be empty as a way to say that this is going to be the name of my queue, and I don't know it, right?
Okay, I'm just taking from the same link that you posted there, and it says channels, user signed up, and binding. So instead of that, channels, queues, and queueId. So that queueId will be a parameter in my channel name. Is that what you're
correct?
But, okay, then I explain the queueId in there.
Correct, but before we enter into bindings, you have this parameters object. Oops, I didn't want to send, but anyway. So you can have parameters. Let me try to find it on the spec. parameters.
Yeah.
The channel.
I found it.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yes.
Pasting the link here just in case anyone else is interested, or even afterwards in the recording they want to have a look at it. There you have a parameters object where you specify this queueId, right? You can even put restrictions on the name, like it can only be a number, or it can only be a number from 10 to 20, or I don't know, whatever. So it actually has a schema, and this schema can be a JSON schema. So yeah.
All right, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
We can,
Okay, it's time to talk about the conference, I think. So a few words of intro. Yeah, we had quick discussion with Fran and Eve on Monday about this idea. I think Fran found some other conference that was doing an online event, which was pretty nifty. They organized it pretty well with Zoom and YouTube, which looks interesting. And we said, like, yeah, hell, why not try it with AsyncAPI? We have already big enough community, many speakers, and that talk about AsyncAPI on different conferences. So maybe they could prepare some content. That's why we pinged you yesterday about the topic, and today we should discuss it in details. If it comes to dates and the length of the talk, when I take a look on the calendar, I think that because of the Easter time, which is 13th, 14th, I think, of April, we should not organize it sooner than something around 21st or 22nd of April, which is a week after Easter. Because Easter time, it's always, I mean, I wanted to say it's travel time, not these days, but still it's a special time, I think. That's untouchable, I would say. That's why I suggest 21st, 22nd, 23rd, something around, but it's just a suggestion. And as Fran wrote, I think it was in answer to Mark, if it comes to the length of the talk, especially for the online talk, 30 minutes is probably enough. But it all depends on the submissions at the end. I think we would be pretty open here to get first submissions, proposals, and see what people are also proposing. But yeah, what do you think about, first of all, the date? That's the most important, I think.
You're suggesting the 21st of April?
Probably Wednesday, 22nd, because I think it's always proved on any diagrams that Wednesday is the most productive and people are most awake on Wednesdays.
Really? I've never heard that. But yeah, the 22nd seems on the move.
Just a quick thing. So the other conference that we were mentioning was run on Sunday, because some people still have to go work somewhere, like offices and all this stuff. So so for instance, imagine that you are at home, working at home, and you could be on Wednesday attending the conference, the online conference, but your partner is out working somewhere and you're with the kids. Right? Sunday you don't have this problem, and because of the confinement, right? People don't have other stuff to do, so they're not gonna go anywhere. so that's why one of the reasons people are organizing this on Sundays, so everybody is at home, and especially in this new situation, right? So just, I'm not saying it should be on Sunday, but I'm saying that we should take this into account, because some people still have to go out to work. And probably on 21st, most probably on 21st in Spain, we will be already like getting back to work slowly. So Spain and some parts of Europe. So yeah, like it will be.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying on Sunday. I just prefer, I think, it being during the week. I think that's when people are used to working and might tune in if they are at the office. Because if they are going into the office still, then when they're at home on the weekend, they might not want to work, right? Not to mention, I prefer to take Sunday off.
No, I'm just mentioning. I'm not saying it will be on Sunday, but we should take these things into account. That maybe. So watching the conference is not a problem, but speaking will be a problem if you have to take care of your kids at the same time and you are alone at home, right? Depends on how your kids are, of course. If they're wild kids.
If you have basement, that's easy to solve.
Kill them. go.
I mean, it could even on the work day. It could happen like, oh, you can see why I am in kids' room because kids took over my workplace. So
yeah,
I had to move to their place.
Yeah, yeah. But as long as you can. Sorry, go. Sorry, go on.
Okay, I'll go. I was asking the other question would be for conference, how long we think it would be, like a half day, full day, or how many hours, right? Based on that also, it could matter whether work day is fine or it's just weekend is fine, right? If it is going to be like a full day, even is it possible to have a full day during the work week? All that questions, right?
Yeah, I think in my mind it's like a regular conference. So you start not very early in the morning in Europe. Otherwise, people in the US will miss a lot of talks. So we should start probably here at around 10 a.m. Sorry, not 10 p.m. So yeah. So at least that people on the New York City time zones and around can start waking up at 12 here or 1 p.m. here. So I'm just sorry, I'm just like explaining this from my time zone because I don't. So that's what I know, right? So yeah, if we start like 10 a.m. here until 12, like 2 hours. In 2 hours, people from the East Coast will start waking up, and then in 2 or 3 hours after, people from the West Coast will start waking up, right? So,
yeah. So I mean, time zone or the deciding time is always difficult because I host virtual meetups for MuleSoft, all the virtual ones, and time zone. I always have trouble with time zone because I cannot find a good time that works for everyone. So what I usually I have one coming up tomorrow, noon time EST. Noon EST is the best time so far I see. Works for whole US as well as like part of India, part of Asia, and so it's difficult. I don't think there is any
I understand.
that works for everyone.
I'm just trying to minimize the range of hours that everybody is going to lose, right? Or people are going to lose. Like, so if we center the things on Europe, and not because we're in Europe, but because if we start from Australia to West Coast, United States, for instance, Europe is in the middle, right?
Yeah,
Europe and West Asia, and so yeah. So I was thinking that maybe if we center the program there, of course, some people will lose one part and some other people will lose the other part, the beginning or the end, depending on where you are, right? Especially, so for instance, in the case of Australia, people will lose the last ones because it's so late for them, and for the US, they will lose the first ones, right? But yeah, we cannot make it perfect here, but it's going to be recorded. So if you want to watch the talk, you can watch it on YouTube the day after, right? You can probably not answer questions or ask questions, sorry, but we can do like questions, like an async questions and answer for each talk, right? So you can leave your questions somewhere, and then the authors, the speakers will answer the questions the day after, or or the week after. That could be interesting as well, like offline questions, right? Offline.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be Slack also, only conference specific. Like create a channel for conference and just tag your session that you have a question about, and then that way you can filter out which sessions and speakers can go against it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it. So yeah, I think we're gonna lose anyway. Like whatever time zone we choose, someone's gonna lose. Right?
Yeah. No.
So
and that's always the recording is the always excuse. That's what I gave.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not so worried about people watching the conference. It's more about speaking, right? Because if you don't, I mean, most probably you're not gonna watch all the talks of the conference in a row. You're probably just gonna skip most of them and will just listen to the ones that you are interested in, or even in the next days you'll pick some ones and just jump to whenever you want to go, right? But speaking is a different thing, right? Speaking, you have to be there at the same time, right? You cannot postpone this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that will be the only restriction, right? Like having a time zone that will suit. For instance, we can have in the early morning, if someone is from Australia, can be one of the first to speak, right? Just so they don't stay until very late. And if someone is from the US, can be one of the last ones to speak, right? So yeah, we can adapt depending on the time zone, so everybody's fine. So that's time zone. Regarding to time zones, I think we can be very flexible here. Also on the length of the talks, we can be very flexible. As I said yesterday on the channel, like we only have a track, right? So if someone wants to take 40 minutes, it's fine. Of course, if you communicate it beforehand, it's much better than saying I'm gonna take 30 minutes and then you take 1 hour, right? Or if you just want to do a small demo that will take you 15 minutes, that's fine as well. Like, I mean, we can probably sneak something in the middle that will be short, and that will work as well. I think, yeah, we're pretty flexible here because we don't have the constraint of we need the room for someone else, right? Because I'm new, or because we need to make things, align things between different rooms, or we don't have this problem. So yeah. As long as the schedule is clear, I think it's fine.
So basically, to summarize, the time zone at the end also depends on the proposal submissions where the speakers are from at the end. Because if most of the speakers will be from US, then probably the best time to start is after lunch or something like this. So
depends on the length of the conference, right? If we have like 6 or 7 hours of talks, we have to start earlier, right? Otherwise, it's gonna get super late with the conference. But yeah, the length also matters here, right?
Yeah. So in regards to the talk types, I mean, what are you looking for here, Fran? Are you looking to hear about like all the different places that AsyncAPI is being used and how it's being used, or just anything as long as it's related to AsyncAPI?
Well, let's have fun. I mean, you tell us the content. If it's related to AsyncAPI or event-driven architectures, much better, right? So if you have a cool product demo, wink, wink, that you want to show, yeah, why not? Or if you have a new library as well that you want to show as well, or for instance, there is a Norberto, there's a guy from Argentina who did a a really cool experiment with MQTT and Arduino, and using AsyncAPI and the code generator, the Node.js generator, and I think that's also a cool talk. Like I told him, like I think this will be great. Like you do a demo, a live demo of how your gadget is actually working, right? And yeah, I think that will be great. And then you tell the experience, and yeah. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So yeah, I think in my head, what I imagined was mostly for fun, right? Like we're not gonna make any profit here. We're not gonna get super serious as the first time. So it's gonna be like in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so yeah, we cannot get very serious here like super professionals. We cannot expect like only specific things about this or that. Let's just gather together and have some fun and yeah, and share experiences, whatever that means.
And I presume it will be streamed on the AsyncAPI's YouTube channel, right?
Yeah,
that would be enough.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't decided the technical details yet, but most probably will be broadcasted on the AsyncAPI channel.
That sounds the most reasonable solution.
Yeah, and that's the most easiest way also for people to attend it without having to download something or do a setup just to see something, right? Yeah.
Actually, we are already, I mean, Eva is already exploring the technical details on how to connect Zoom with OBS and then doing
I know it. If you need any help, let me know, because I do it for MuleSoft virtual meetups, right? That's what I do. And until last time, I used to use Lightstream to stream to the YouTube. For tomorrow's one, I'm switching to using Zoom for the speaker and myself, like a host. We too will be on the Zoom, but Zoom will be streaming on Virtual Mule's YouTube channel where everybody sees it. So
that makes sense. I mean, that makes total sense. I think, thanks for offering help. And I think the thing here is that we need to stream the video from the Zoom conference. So in this, the way we imagine this is we have the speaker and the host on the Zoom call. Only the 2 people on the call, right? This is streaming to OBS and from OBS to YouTube. Why the OBS tab if we can stream directly to YouTube from Zoom is because we want to have in some moments we will have to, for instance, during lunchtime or something like this, or if we do lunchtime, right? Since it's a distributed conference, it's just gonna be weird. But if we do like a break or something like this of 15 minutes, you might want to have a countdown, things like this, right? And or a frame. You want to have a frame of with the logos of the sponsors, like and or next stall is gonna be whoever, right? You want to do these kind of things like professional TV stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, with the static YouTube channel link, you can do this. I never used OBS, so I don't know how that part works. But the static YouTube link, for example, youtube.com/t/virtualmuleys/live, that is the always static link all my audience and all our events have as a target. So people always go on that link, and every time I create a new Zoom meeting or anything, it streams to that same thing, and that link that can keep showing whatever you want it to show. I mean, I'm just putting out my setup or how do I do it. I never used OBS and all that, so maybe
no, we have to explore all the possibilities, of course.
I use it simple, right? I mean, I keep it simple because it's just a one not like a conference, it's one event, so I keep it simple.
And also, so the guys who organized this stayathomeconf.com, they're from Barcelona. That's why I knew about it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask them like how they did it, but yeah, they even might offer help. So
sure.
So yeah, I know some of them. So yeah, so we should be fine. Like in regards to technology, we should be
good.
We should be fine. Like, is there any engineer in the room, right?
Yeah, I think the important question would be to find content and speakers.
Yeah, definitely. So this is right now we will have to do some manual work of sending emails and sending messages to people wanting to submit some content, or that we want them to submit some content. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is first time, right, for us. So I don't know how full conference setup we could get and all that, right? Usually, like, for example, call for papers, CFP thing, that is like a full-blown real I don't mean real, or I mean like established conferences which they follow the process, right? Like,
yeah, no. I think it must be easier here. Like, it's gonna be in like 3 weeks. We don't have time for that, right? It's like we have to reach out to people directly, or people directly to ask as quickly as possible. If we get, I don't know, like 10 to 12 speakers, that should be more than enough. And I will say that that's even a lot, depending on the length of the talks. And yeah, so
yeah,
we should optimize this. Like,
yes. Let's get out first and then optimize in the
second. And the cost of doing this is almost zero. So so yeah, we can probably run another one later this year. But once this coronavirus crisis is gone, most people will not want to attend an online conference anymore. They will be out having beers. So yeah. So yeah.
And it's also good that way people don't overthink it. I think that's another reason why it's good to say, hey, we have enough community and knowledge. We can come together and share it.
Yeah.
True.
That's very true. And before I was saying that it's probably going to be hard to have a lunchtime because it's distributed, but we can have 3 or 4 lunchtimes. That's the other way of seeing this, right? That's the other perspective. So yeah.
We can have a joint cooking session during the lunchtime.
I would like to see that, man. I would like to see that. So today we are with Lukas, and he's gonna cook some, I don't know.
Polish pierogi.
Yeah, exactly, Polish pierogi. So yeah.
I can get behind Polish pierogies, by the way. Just saying.
Sorry?
I said I can get behind Polish pierogies as another has-been Polish guy decades ago.
And that's actually kind of interesting. If we actually, after the conference, then we find success, maybe you could find a way to mix in food and async API, right? Because we're all in different areas and we have different kinds of food. I think that would be kind of interesting. Have you heard of procrastinate?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to challenge you a little bit more. What about during the conference? So we have a session during the conference, someone is cooking. So we have a session about AsyncAPI, or some sessions about AsyncAPI, and some session in the middle about just cooking. So we have someone showing us how to cook something. We have like 1 or 2 cooking sessions.
That would be so awesome. Yeah, like one of my girlfriends knows how to make really amazing tamales.
That would be amazing, and that could actually be the break. Instead of doing the break, you have the cooking session, right?
As long as it's not parallel, because they will take most of the viewers.
Yeah.
Parallel.
Not parallel. I mean, the same channel, you know, like the same stream. It would be great. Like, I don't know, during this 30 minutes break, whoever or Lukas is gonna show us how to cook Polish pierogi. That's perfect.
Challenge accepted.
That will be amazing. You can ask your kids to record you in the kitchen.
Sounds delicious.
Good.
So yeah, cool guys.
All right.
Well, cool folks. Sorry, we have to be inclusive here. So I think we're running out of time. If there's any other question, just feel free to send the questions on Slack, and we'll be happy to answer. And yeah, I mean, thanks for attending today. Thanks for joining. And see you in the.
I think on our side, the next, and just to summarize, I think the next step on our side is to kind of define a channel where people can send the call for papers, proposals, and give some deadlines so we can start deciding on those time zones and everything.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for probably tomorrow.
Cool.
It has to be tomorrow.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.